Quest line. Welcome to Coupling with the Carlins. Your host for the show is Marion Carlin and
Tia, also known as T-Tay by my bae. Thank you for joining us today.
We're going to have an amazing show.
We're going to talk about love, and mastering the art of coupling in your relationship. You are listening to Coupling with the Carlins.
Hey, everybody. What's happening out there?
What's happening?
Oh, TJ.
It's Friday.
It is Friday.
TGIF.
TGIF. It's Friday. We're back again. Can you believe it?
Absolutely. I can't believe it.
You guys are listening to Coupling with the Carlins. We're here every single Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. every single Friday.
Every Friday.
You're listening to KBOB 89.9 FM, Black on Black Community Radio, 24/7 live streaming, KBOB 89.9.com. We are so happy and elated that you guys are here with us today for another fantastic show.
Yes, absolutely. We hope that we have some content that can serve you. And
that's automatic, baby. That's automatic. We're going to make that happen all the time because we're passionate about rekindling,
restoring and retaining more love and intimacy
in your marriage and relationship.
Yes.
So guys, we are the Carlins. My name is Marion and this is
Tia
Carlin.
Yes.
And we are relationship experts and relationship empowerment life coaches. Guys, we've been in this game for a minute, over 13 years in the game, separate and together.
Yes.
We teach couples how to rekindle, restore, and retain more love and marriage in their marriage and relationship by atoning and attuning, by atonement and attunement. We've been doing it for, again, a very long time, and we're passionate about helping couples really know how to create oneness in their marriage and relationship, where their marriage and relationship, it keeps evolving.
Absolutely.
It keeps evolving. So
we work it and we live it.
And we live it and we work it. And when we're on the valley, we'll celebrate. When we're on the mountaintop, we'll celebrate. And when we're in the valley, we'll celebrate because we know that surrendering your marriage and relationship to the highest power, which we believe is in our faith, God and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, you can't do it without him. You have to have that spiritual awakening.
You have to answer to somebody.
Yeah, all of us have to answer to something and submit to something.
Yes, you have to be submitted to something. Generally more than one thing, but absolutely.
Yes. So Tia, tell me today, how are you doing today? Precious.
Doing very, very well.
Okay, tell me what's good.
Very reflective.
All right, wonderful. Tell me what's good. Tell me how your week has been.
My week's been great. I've had a really great week.
I'll take you've had a great week.
Yeah. How's your week been?
My week has been insightful. You know, it's a lot that I'm, dealing with my mom and all that kind of good stuff. God is still God. Life is not bad. It's not good. It's what? It's just life. It's just life.
Yeah. It is. It's just life. There's always the good and the bad. We've talked about that this week.
Yes.
Just being able to find some happy, fun moments, even at your lowest critical times.
Mm-hmm.
I know that just me personally, my sense of humor can be.
You got a great sense of humor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I do like to try to find fun in some of the more awkward situations or stressful situations, because it's generally when I get to that place, I think like there's got to be something funny about this. There's always some irony or something that I feel that I want to point out.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's important that people remember to just enjoy life, enjoy one another, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, be thankful,
absolutely,
be grateful.
Absolutely.
Your attitude, an attitude of gratitude is always your best direction to go. You want to be feeding and fueling yourself with positivity and positive people and positive self-talk and inner dialogue. And so that's just very important. And being able to love yourself so you can when your cup runneth over,
Mm-hmm.
it runs over to all that you love and care for. So that's always a good thing.
Always. We know this to be true with all of those wonderful things. And then when you can be disciplined enough to surrender your heart, mind, body, and soul to what the word says, because the word is the word, it never returns void. It's not just only, in a feeling and an experience, but a real guide to how God would want us to cover one another and love one another
Yes.
in the existence of being a restorer and a redeemer in your marriage and relationship. Because
and know that relationship, your relationship, is your responsibility on so many levels, that you as an individual,
That's good.
that you have to find your own
that's good,
level
babe.
of surrender. You have to be peace to find peace. You can't just
That's good. We're going to get into
be
that.
havoc and expect that when you leave a place that your own havoc doesn't go with you.
Mm-hmm.
Your own havoc, it's going to resurface no matter what environment you put it in. So
that is so good. And in our body of work and what we do, we find where couples are at different places. They're at different places and at different times in their marriage and relationship. And so as these trials and tribulations go on within your relationship, you're still healing
outside
of your relationship. You're still healing from past trauma experiences that you've had before that relationship.
In all different types of relationships, just like past romantic relationships, parental relationships, authoritative relationships, friendships. Just all the way in which we relate to one another. So,
which we should in turn be, as a couple, we should be, wanting to attune and atone. And for all of you who don't understand what that means, real quick, attuning this to your spouse and significant other is very important, because you're developing a line of emotional topography and emotional being and an emotional awareness, where you're wanting to relate to how, why, where, and what your spouse and significant other, they're feeling. And so it's kind of like you getting out of your own level of your own trauma and what you've already dealt with and what you're still dealing with, because the past is not the past, it's the present. If we're not careful, recreating the future, being present with your spouse and significant other and what they're feeling, on top of your level of justification of what they're not giving you. So you're going to create a real level of attunement with them. And the atonement piece is the forgiveness piece.
Yes.
Is what's so important that we have to, as we evolve in relationship and marriage, guys, we have to keep on forgiving and forgiving and loving and forgiving and loving and forgiving, because you made a commitment with your spouse and significant other, that you all are going to make this relationship work no matter what. And for those who who are married,
and you want to do that in a very constructive way by really, searching and looking at what it is that, because you're creating something with or without intention. So you want to be very intentional about the dynamic that you're creating. You want to make sure that what you're wanting to put into practice, or what you're bringing to the table, or what you're requesting or bidding, is, for one, within a reasonable level of expectation, because we always, people that are hard on other people are generally people that are hard on themselves.
All the time.
So you find a lot of unmet expectation, and that comes out of a lack of very clear communication, where you are sure that you have an understanding where that person is coming from, or what the bid is about, where it possibly stems from.
That's good.
And you may not have resolution in a disagreement every single time that you go in to discuss something. Sometimes you have to table it and come back and break it down into smaller pieces.
There's
to digest.
Oh my God. Repeat that one more time. You have to, if you know that you can't, you're charged. You're both emotionally charged. So, there's his truth, there's your truth, and then the truth. And when you're emotionally charged, you're not even able to really think 99% of the time when you're upset with your spouse and significant other. You're not even thinking.
Your heart rate goes up.
Everything. Blood pressure, heart rate, cortisol, adrenaline.
Creates hormone fluctuation.
Yes, right.
Yes, just on physiological level.
Right, which is going to, in part, it's going to affect the way that you're thinking. And not only that, it's going to affect the way, babe, that you are communicating and the way that you're thinking.
The tone of your tone of voice.
Everything plays a role. So the tabling factor is important. We teach in the code, we teach how you can green card that. And just real quick, let me just share this with you. You guys can always reach us at Carlin Coupling Code on Facebook.com. You can reach us on Carlin Coupling Code, and then you can reach us at Carlin Coupling Code at gmail.com. And then just hit us in Messenger like you guys keep doing. If you just want to take T and I for a test drive, we're coming up with something really, really special for you that we've been planning and we've been developing, that's going to be on Sundays, that I promise you, when we roll this thing out, you will want to be an absolute part. Getting back to what I was just saying real quick, not going off on a tangent too much, is the tabling effect and knowing how to come back to that. Because most couples just really struggle. It's not the love that you guys struggle with, and it's not the commitment that you guys struggle with. The struggle is in the communication. The struggle is in relating to one another. The struggle is finances. The struggle is, if you're a blended family, it's blending those children and dealing with in-laws. And then the struggle is also the lack of really trying to obtain and submit to each other's desires.
Yes. And also the needs of another person. That they're an entire person, whole person. Both people are two whole people coming from different life experiences, coming in with belief systems that they're not even sure where they came from. And just knowing that to be in oneness with someone else, that's going to take compromise. That's going to not meet every one of your expectations all of the time. It's not going to always feel amazing. It's not always going to be butterflies and rainbows. Yeah. But, that's why you want to take the time when you are having those good moments to just reflect on those and to try to minimize the misunderstandings, because a lot of times there's a lot of misunderstandings. We make a lot of assumptions. We do a lot of projecting. We do a lot of blaming and finger pointing when, especially some of our own insecurities and projections. So you just have to listen to what you're saying to yourself, listen to what you're saying to your partner, listen to what you're saying to your friends, listen to what you're saying, whatever you're speaking or thinking, to be mindful of what that is, because that is going to affect the way you perceive your relationship.
All the time. That piece that you were just stating, babe, with what you're saying to your friends. If you are in relationship and marriage, you better have a core group of individuals who is completely supportive of keeping you and your spouse and significant other together, where they're listening, but they're neutral. They're listening and they're not pointing the finger. They're listening and they're not putting your spouse and significant other down. They're listening and they're listening with an attitude of gratitude. Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's why we offer our services, so we can bring in that objective eye. We can never see ourselves, and even sometimes, the people who love us the most, they can tend to have their own biases and assumptions based on just their own level of belief system. And you always have to know that you'll never know the whole story. No. So just that's really they're good. Believing in you and who you are as a couple, and you're not trying to break down every small issue into a group private Facebook group where you're discussing who agrees with who agrees with you. Lots of tiebreakers, things like that, but that will result in a lot of confusion. It's triangulation.
It will. It'll operate in confusion, because instead of you both are in a relationship. You're both in a committed relationship, or you're married. And we teach all the time how that marriage needs to evolve and become its own third person. There's the Father, there's the Son, and the Holy Spirit, three. So in that union of three, what's important is you need to be able to communicate in a way to one another where you both can completely come together and you both can completely be in a level of oneness in creating that third person, which is not necessarily your friends. You want your friends and your brothers and sisters in Christ to be very supportive, but that's not the source that you need to necessarily go to when you run into issues, because in a relationship, as you evolve and you get past the first 6 months and 1 year in a marriage and relationship, the work really begins to get the trials and tribulations. The work really is a part of how you're going to evolve and what that
Absolutely.
looks like and the complications of that, because you're dealing with not just you, and you're not dealing just with your spouse and significant other, but you're completely dealing with your children. If you're blending a family, you're dealing with in-laws, you're dealing with siblings, you're dealing with relatives that are now a part of your spouse and significant other's family. And because they are a part of your spouse and significant other's family, they're a part of your family. So that third person needs to be, and I believe that third person needs to be you all creating that third person in a higher level of faith, in the Word of God, in what you're truly believing in, and how you've insulated your marriage and relationship around those principles, because they're principles that have been created since the beginning of time, and they work. That marriage is a representation of God's love for us. I believe that. I will die believing that, and I know that to be true in my own level of belief. So that third person is important, and when you're doing that and you're communicating to one another, it's important to be able to do that. And we talk about this in the code. We talk about a blank canvas. This is what it needs to look like, ladies and gentlemen. When you're in conflict, and when you're in, as Brenda Todd would say, and Tommy Todd, a high-powered conversation,
High-powered discussion.
high-powered discussion, you both need to get to, what does the blank canvas look like? And if you all can begin to hear one another with a blank canvas, without it being muddied up and with marks, because in a relationship, you start off with a blank canvas, and it's the reason why you guys can hear each other so well. It's the reason why love seems so easy. It's the reason why the attunement just flows and the atonement just flows, and you get all that, oh my God, I get that, and you understand that, and you're the most significant person I've ever met in my life, and I've never felt like this before, and I've never experienced anything like this before. Well, it's new. It's new. So any relationship that's new, it can be easy as you go and move forward in the trials and tribulations of life. You understand that things just happen. Parents get sick. It just happens. Finances change. You change jobs. You lose jobs. You get new jobs. You go through different trials and tribulations with exes and children,
You're
and
just
your
work
battles
life,
of life,
home
your work,
life,
everything
your
you're battling.
parenting.
So all of that muddies up the water. And if I had that magic marker, I could just make marks all over this thing and just imagine what that looks like. But you want to communicate where it's just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to hear you, and I'm going to try to hear you without my meaning making machine on. That I'm adding so much meaning to what you're saying. I'm not even thinking about what you're saying. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next.
You don't want it to be doing that.
No, you don't. But this is what we do out of habit.
Yes.
This is the way that we communicate. And then because we're doing that, we're not hearing one another. And there's that part of getting emotionally charged again that plays a big role. There's the part that you're saying things that you really don't mean. Now, mean words are playing a role. And then from there, there's a level of misunderstanding.
There's also the couples that they always get around the mean words. No mean words are said, but there's there's a heaviness in the room. And
right.
There's a
crush an elephant, heavier than an elephant.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're not communicating.
You can cut it with a knife.
Right. You're not communicating, but because you're not communicating and there's no mean words going on,
There's
and
a
I'm
lot
not
of body language things
there
happening.
It is. Right. I'm not saying, and just let me clarify, mean words doesn't mean that you're actually speaking negative of your spouse, or you're cursing your spouse, or you can say a lot of truth and a lot of things when you're communicating to your spouse and significant other that it could be potentially mean. However, it's still truth.
Right.
And so
watch your observations. Maybe it's not the best time to bring up, someone's weakest attributes, or especially when that feels intentional, that is going to hurt feelings. It's like constructive criticism or observations has to actually have the element of being constructive.
Absolutely.
It needs to have be constructive. It has to have a problem in which is solvable, and that it can be solved. and that you're bringing that, and you're wanting to work through it, and there's actually going to be a solution at the end of it. Otherwise, it's just a little passive aggressive to just be saying.
It lands that way.
Yeah, it does. So we just want to make sure that what we're saying to ourselves, what we're saying to ourselves about the people that we love, challenge your own perceptions of things. Think, ask yourselves why, sometimes you ask yourself why until you get down to the simplest answer. Well, I feel this. Well, why? Well, why?
Where's this? Why do I feel this way? Where's it coming from?
Yes. And sometimes it's completely different than what we assume. We live in such a fast-paced society.
Absolutely.
In quick information. We want to have these rapid conversations, this quick pace back and forth, and be so ready to answer a question. But we have to take that moment, think about what it is that we're wanting to communicate, and what's the best way to communicate what it is that we're intending to communicate for the other person to hear it. And that's part of the attunement, because that's in knowing your partner, and in knowing your partner, knowing yourself.
Your spouse.
Yeah. Yes. And knowing your spouse or partner.
Right.
Then that's also being able to know who you are also.
That's rich when you say about the piece and being able to know your spouse and significant other well enough to take the time, to literally take the time to hear what they're saying without you giving an initial response. Because sometimes we found out in just watching couples have conflict, because if you're going to be in a relationship, you're going to have conflict, you're going to argue. How arguments and conversations happen with the pace of the conversation sometimes. And I think that's really rich that you state that.
Just we can turn a mountain, we can make a mountain out of a molehill. Yeah,
people make
a mountain out of a molehill.
We'll have an issue and make it way bigger than what it is. And I know this to be true from my experience and your experiencing. Coaching as many couples as we've coached individually and together, that the important thing is to keep a pace that feels and it looks like the continuity of that. What you're trying to do is relate to your spouse and significant other without you responding so fast. If you guys are listening, and I appreciate you guys listening on the radio, I made an example of just taking a blank piece of paper, and I'm showing it at just live, that your conversation needs to look blank when you're listening to one another. So if you're out there and you are listening to the show, grab a piece of paper, or just think of a piece of paper, and that's the way that you need to be able to hear and respond to your spouse and significant other when conflict is happening, and also when it's not happening, that you're taking the time to really listen without you adding your own input.
It's like clearing out the emotional space for that to happen within yourself, because usually we're so full of what it is that we're feeling. So
absolutely,
just try to show up in a mindful, present, aware way. I mean, there's a lot of subtle body language cues that can throw off an entire conversation. I've seen it happen. Someone will look away or move something or become distracted, and the next thing you know, the entire argument has shifted. That person feels slighted somehow. Then something is said that isn't really meant. It's more of a reaction than a response. And then we've had a big blow up, and we've lost 3 days out of an entire relationship in the communication, and trying to rebuild that over just not being present to one another. And, saying, I'm going to take the time to talk to you about this. And then coming to an agreement on that, and when the best time for that would be. So being just, sometimes a little courtesy goes a long way.
Tia, it really, truly does.
Hmm.
There's several things that I've learned about just being married, and I've learned from surrendering to what marriage is supposed to look like. My heart surrenders to Christ first and foremost. My heart surrenders to the Lord first, and then everything else follows that. But there's a lot to be said and a lot to be noticed, and a lot that we as men could have awareness in the pace of sometimes when you're in whatever that is, in some level of conflict, or you're having some level of just, it's a non-resolution, that it doesn't have to be solved in that moment. Sometimes it's good that we teach couples that you can not only just take the green card break, but in between the green card, and that's just a time where you're both respecting the mantra of what you both agree to, and
Hmm.
how you want to speak, treat, love,
Yes.
and honor
You just want to
one
make
another.
sure that when you're in that green card time, you're not ruminating over
That's
the
good.
issue. You
That's
want to
good.
actually involve yourself in probably some self-care,
Mhm.
or just some time out, or some downtime, or something you enjoy, something you find mindless.
Mhm.
And
Couples who know how to do this, they roadmap well.
yes. So then you can learn what each other need. After we all have seen couples that have, done the marathon, the 50, 60, 70-year marathon. And when
Wow.
we look at them, there's a peace about them. There's a comfort
That's
that
so
they
good.
find with one another. There's a unity, there's a sameness, there's a oneness, there's a direction. They know how the other person is feeling. They've conceded to things long ago that they've just said, hey, that's not going to work for us. They've
That's good.
made real adjustments. They've let things be very sacrificial, and they've been willing to do what it is that it takes to be in a relationship with another person. And the truth is, especially as isolated as people are, kind of we live within our own little thought bubble, our own world,
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
our routines and monotony of the day. We have to remember that that person and what they're absorbing and taking in, and the way they're seeing it, might be very different than the way that we're seeing it. And just knowing that it takes, when in a society in which we have today, it's going to take a more effort in communicating things intentionally,
That's good.
correctly,
Mhm.
text messages, just getting a clear understanding. There's so many misunderstandings to be had. So just make sure that it's what you're saying is clear, what you clarify what it is that
Mhm.
you've heard. You don't do a lot of finger pointing.
Yes.
You don't assume that you're always right. It's
really
like
good.
no doubt, no awareness. Like
Mhm.
if you can't challenge yourself on, where is this coming from,
Mhm.
then you're not really opening your eyes up to all the possibilities of where the root cause of it is, and then you're just spinning your wheels. And I know that so many people in relationships, it's not that the relationship is bad, it's that they've had so many misunderstandings over an amount of time that have just snowballed into a level of contentment or disagreeability, or just
Wow.
right fighting or one upping, and just
Mhm.
getting caught
Justifying.
in this just kind of bumper car type style, and never really giving anything a fresh start. Just a lot of finger pointing and blaming, and that creates a lot of distance when you even
It's a slow burn, but it happens.
yeah, you want to be turning towards one another. And when you as a couple are feeling overwhelmed, then eliminate some of the distractions.
Absolutely. As a
Yes.
couple, when you're in that mode of bumper car,
Mm-hmm.
fighting, or you said right fighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Justifying, your level of position, because It's funny how when you first fall in love with your spouse and significant other the very first time, it's like there's a purple in the Bible that says, "Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done." You're truly, that's out of God. Means when He says that word, He means that you might be in His presence to stay surrendered. When you first fall in love with someone, your spouse and significant other, you're totally surrendered. You're surrendered to their emotion, you're surrendered to their physical body, you're surrendered to their spirit, you're surrendered to the way that they think, the way that they desire, their
Well,
aspirations.
you're
You're just,
wanting to be what
yeah,
it is that they want.
right. So
You
you're
know,
surrendered. As we begin to do relationship and life hits, then it gets harder and harder when we're just dealing with different issues, because as we're trying to communicate these things, we feel less and less surrendered, which puts us in a level of right fighting, which breaks down the attunement, it breaks down the atonement, and then you don't have a blank canvas
it
anymore. What you
prevents
have,
the atonement.
yeah, it prevents it. So
Atonement can't even happen.
it can't even
with it.
happen with, yeah, exactly, babe, without a level of you creating the position of being a redeemer, you creating the position of being, it's not just, it doesn't matter necessarily all the time depicting on, what your spouse and significant are doing. I'm not talking about real abuse, physical, mental,
Yes,
emotional. I'm
I
not
was
talking
just
about
gonna
those
say
things.
that. Yes.
I'm talking about the level
outside
of those
yes.
things where
Mhm.
it's crucial to your level of safety. I'm not talking about that. Get
Mhm.
away from that. What I'm talking about is the relatability of you wanting to really create something again, and even know that you're not receiving what it is that you desire, you're standing in the gap for your spouse and significant other to keep a blank canvas, to truly try to create a new level of atonement and a new level of attunement, where she will feel like she's safe enough again to believe.
Yes.
She's safe enough to believe in what you're choosing, to be who you say that you were in the beginning, and you
Mhm.
operate in that level of commitment outside of what
Being
you're
who
not
you say
receiving.
you're going to be, and
Yeah,
do what you say you're going to
because
do.
because men, when we get hurt, and we tend to go inward with what we're not receiving and what we're not getting and how this isn't fair. And if we're not careful, we tend to think inside the relationship in a way that's justifiable with, why am I even doing this anymore? Is it worth what I'm trying to commit to? You feel less and less understood. You feel less and less related to.
Mhm.
And then that's the time
And just
when
know that anyone else when that kind of emotional conflict is
is going on.
it's going to feel like conversation with anyone else
Is easier.
easier.
Is easier.
So just, that's a normal feeling, because that's when contempt has kind of wrapped
It's set in.
Yeah, it's set in.
That
and
viper
settled.
that cobra has struck.
Yes. So you've got to get through that before you can really come with a fresh perspective.
One of the tools in the toolbox to speak on the fresh perspective is, sometimes it's better as men that we surrender in a way where we cover our wives, where we just decide to be what I believe and what I know and what you believe God's called you to truly be. And then that's being a full redeemer. And what does that look like? Being a redeemer in your marriage and relationship, it does not look in tit for tat. I had one of my mentors, Petty, one of our mentors that we have, shout out Pastor Brent, shout out Pastor Rich, they talk about, which is important, that marriage and relationship, guys, is not a game. It is not a game that you can win. You cannot win outperforming your spouse and significant other. You cannot win out loving your spouse and significant other. You cannot win and out achieving your spouse and significant other. That's a game. Marriage is not a game. So you can't keep score. And as men, sometimes, if we're not careful, we have put so much into our spouse and significant other, where we
I think
know
men do that more.
I'm speaking to men. So where we know where we know that we know that we know
and
that we know.
They miss a lot of the contribution. There's a lot of underappreciation that happens.
It can, absolutely.
Yes.
So then we get so focused on what we're contributing to what we're operating in, because when a man really loves a woman, it's a wrap.
Yes,
it's unshakable when it happens. Men have to
realize the complexity of loving a woman. Like it's an evolution.
Yes.
She is created there that she's a helpmeet.
Not a helpmate. That's totally different. A helpmeet is totally different from a helpmate. Yes.
And so that is a gift, and you have to understand that she's not going to be thinking like you or feeling like you. And there's women have a lot of different type of just different, we're at the mercy of, women are at the mercy of their hormones and all of the other things that happen in a woman's life. So I just think, just in the observation of people in general, men think in a way that is more simplified, and a woman has so many other factors going on. So that's why that needs to be communicated clearly.
Men are simple in a lot of ways,
Yes.
and women are way more complex. I had it once. One of I read, write, and file just like you do all the time. Trying to understand a woman is like trying to smell the color 9. Guys, you're not going to be able to do it. What you can do is achieve yourself in your heart in something way greater than yourself. That's your faith in the spiritual power and what God's called you to be able to love, and the level of continuity that will absolutely restore all things. Love holds no account of wrongdoing. Period. It's what Scripture says. People do. And so when that happens, and because we do live in this flesh, Paul even talked about in this word that why is it that when I want to do good, evil's lurking right there. He says that when you're trying to do good, sometimes, and you're doing it from a heartfelt place, sometimes in the flesh you feel justified with what you're not receiving. And love is something that is, the Bible says, and Scripture say that it's long suffering. Not trying to preach, but I am preaching. It's long suffering. It holds no account of wrongdoing. It's kind. It's patient. So as a man, and you're holding the foundation of your family, you have to stand in that, and you have to submit to that no matter what. You must be a redeemer. And in loving in a redemption way, when you love like that, I promise you, when that love is truly consistent, it's really coming from heart, it's obedient, it's submitted to something way greater than your flesh, and way greater than your accomplishments, and way greater than what you think that you're doing. There's something that will happen
profession,
your
what
profession.
You think you're bringing to the table, or what you
your
talents and
skill sets and bank accounts and all that kind of good. It is the redemptive power of that kind of love. It's unquestionable. It is addictive. Out of there's
once you break that cycle.
Once you break the cycle, out of the abundance of the heart, there's a parable that says that the mouth will speak. So these principles are principles that have been scripturally written down and scripturally spoken, because they work. And being able to express yourself and submit yourself unto that is where the redemptive qualities will begin to happen, where there's something that will shift in your marriage and shift in your relationship. We talk about, and Tia just mentioned, there's a difference between a helpmate and a helpmeet. I just want to go over that just real quick. If you're of course, if you're in the kitchen or just doing something, and you're like, babe, I can't find this, and your wife tells you, and significant other says, well, look up in the third counter, it's in the third drawer left or whatever, in the upper right hand corner or whatever, and it's there, that's a helpmate. But a helpmeet would just bring it to you. She would just bring it to you, where it's like, babe, I'm looking for this, and 2 seconds later you're just like, it's right there in front of you, and she's saying to you, babe, is this what you were looking for? That's a helpmeet. She's surrendering to something that's way greater than her pay grade.
Wait, you've said it in 2 different ways.
I've said it in one way. I've said a helpmate and a helpmeet. A helpmate is someone that if you're looking for something and a wife is trying, she's telling you where it's at. A helpmeet is the woman that's just bringing it to you. Totally different.
Okay, so the helpmeet is bringing it to you.
And she's bringing it to you out of what you are bringing to her, how you're showing up, how you are listening to her. And you're having a blank canvas. Men, listen to me again if you're out there listening, and give this analogy, ladies. You need to listen to
no one to take this as an actual test. Do not test this out and then say, well, since you didn't bring it to me, now you are not equally. Yes. That's a mind game. We don't want to do that. Right. That's just an example.
I'm sharing out of the example of where your heart is. And where your heart is as a man is where your heart is, where her heart is going to be as a woman. You are being the man, and by being the man, you have to be the example of where, how, what, when, and the complexity of where you want the relationship to go. It's going to start with you. I'm calling you out, men. It starts and it ends with you. Every successful marriage, every successful relationship is always on the success of it, and the failure of it is on a man. I stand in that. If I get burned at the cross, I stand in that. I stand in it, because we have to truly be redeemers and surrendering to something way greater than ourselves, and then creating something in your marriage and relationship where you're creating a third party. Like, you want to be able to just attune with your wife and significant other enough that you are giving her a covering where she can feel safe, a covering where she can heal, a covering where she can attune to, a covering where she can operate in her own level of being, because she's a person, a whole person. She's an entity all by herself. She's created to do something miraculous and wonderful, and she's been called to do it with you, along with you doing it with her. I absolutely know all these things to be true. When we talk about and we deal with couples, and couples come to us, and the first thing that they come to us and they want to say is, how can you help? How can we help? And the first thing that comes out of most individuals, spouses and significant other, their mouths is, let me tell you about my spouse. I mean, it's immediate. Let me tell you about what's going on. They don't necessarily express what's going on with them and how they're showing up.
Or they will express it if it's just all like, this is what I've done, this is what I'm doing,
Yes.
this is what I've done, this is what I'm doing, this is what, it turns into a tit for tat type of a situation. So,
and then we tend to, if we're not careful, we tend to have high powered discussions like that outside of our purpose and our calling. So when you have been in relationship a long time, and you guys know that those couples that are out there that you see when you're out at venues, you see the couples that are a little bit to your 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to your senior, where they're just vibing and they're just getting along, and they have this quiet, relational like ambiance that's just all over their spiritual vibration, that that they are just naturally understanding one another. They're naturally attuning to one another. Yes. And we've even had examples
there's
where
a lot of acceptance.
Totally. There it is. Total acceptance.
And expectation, really paying attention to what the expectation they're putting on the other person, and then what's being the working on it. You have to be working on yourself. And when you can see your own reflection, then you can see possibly why and how you're getting the reactions or the responses that you're receiving. Sometimes when we're so unaware of ourselves, one thing we like to ask people to do is to possibly, for them to agree to talk something through and to record it. And
powerful.
Then you go back and you give some time with it, and you can assess it, and you'll hear things in your tone that's different than you thought. Or if you do a video, you're going to see body language that you're not aware of. We tend to get, it's in anything. You get a brand new job, you're motivated, you buy all new clothes, you get your fresh laptop bag, and you get all your accessories together, and as time goes on, it's like the beginning of a school year, we stop looking to be at our best in the way that we first started out. So just be aware of just some of your own behaviors, some of your own just laziness, possibly, just in what might be not appealing. Like, really look at what it is that you're doing.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And having the awareness that there's an entire other person that
who has feelings
that's around me. So let me be thoughtful. And it's sometimes that's hard to do if you have not been in a relationship for a long time. There's a lot of adjusting that has to happen. And so you have to be patient with one another, and you have to be patient with yourself in a relationship, because if you can get past that work on phase, then you and get to the other side of that, you will be much more at ease than if you were to end that relationship and start over fresh. You know, like, be happy when you know what problems you have to tackle. Be happy when you know what issues you have to resolve. Know what your conflicts are. Know where your positions are. Be able to use like an outside perspective to have a real strategy on how you're going to try different techniques or replace habits with other counter habits.
That's good
to change the behavior, and then give it a time period. Try that out. If that doesn't work, do it like any other problem solving. Try something else. Modify it. Come back together. Let's modify it now. I thought that was going to work. It didn't. It's fine to tweak things. If someone says something once, it doesn't mean that's how they feel about it all the time or forever, or that they're never moving forward or progressing. So just be aware that how someone feels or sees something today isn't how they always will feel about it. There's so many people that walk around and they have like this begrudging, like some comment that was made. Anyone who's been in a long relationship has had it happen to them.
22 years ago. Yes.
A spouse or significant other, something has happened, years have gone by, you've slept so many nights, you've eaten so many Christmas dinners, you've celebrated birthdays. I mean, so many things have happened. You don't even live
things together.
Yes. And they will bring up something you said very specifically in the way in which they remember it, and will fight to the death about it. And it's like, it's so far gone, it's so out of context, that person doesn't even remember how it started. It's like, when you've got the problem, address it. And if you're stuck on the feeling, then talk about the feeling and how that made you feel, and how you interpreted it, and give that person the opportunity to atone. Because when you care about someone, you don't want them to be hurt. So, just be reasonable, and even what you expect back once you share your feelings. Sometimes I think our expectations of, it's like, I'm going to tell him that I'm not happy, and he's just going to just
explode.
He's just going to be a completely different person. And that, you just, your expectation is just so...
You've added so much meaning to his own reaction.
Right. You're asking for something, and what you're asking for isn't even that reasonable as far as human behavior it works, and just allowing that change to happen. And then when you see that change happening, you want to give positive reinforcement to what it is that you do like about one another. So if you're focusing on the positive affirmations, like, even if it comes, if it can come down to the smallest thing, because I've seen couples in...
Men love the small.
In major gridlock, like just fighting to the death, and like every single thing that's done is wrong. It's, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? So it's backing away from that level of contempt, and really assessing what it is that you're expecting. Are you really wanting this person to change, or are you dissatisfied with something that is going on that is out of that person's control? Because that's what we do when our expectations are unrealistic, or sometimes we have to look at what healing we need ourselves.
That's good.
Possibly we're pushing them away. What are you feeling that is making you feel that this person is projecting that back on you? And it's just being open about that. So when I talk about the old, bringing something up that happened so many years ago, I want to address that you want to talk about things as they happen. But if you do have to go back and revisit something that needs real emotional resolution, just how to do that. And that's something we can help people with. And we do help people with just
All
how
the
to get
time.
through some old pain that's either within their relationship or pain that has occurred in another relationship, and then the fear in which
Mhm.
is brought into your
This is
marriage and
good.
relationship based on your past experiences. You know,
So
we
good.
shouldn't have to pay for the debts of, you know, there's so many
Boy,
people, so many
boy.
couples that'll say it's not my fault that his
Did
ex-wife did this. It's not my
didn't
fault.
do that,
Or,
right?
yeah, I'm sorry. You
It's
you
so
have
rich.
to. It's like, hey, you got to be where you are right now,
Present. Yeah,
right? And you're gonna get a different version of that person because you
say that
yourself,
again. Say that again. Say that's
you
rich.
are going to get a different version
Yes.
of your spouse and significant other than their previous relationships.
Absolutely.
Because
We're evolving.
you're a different person, they're evolving, they've had things happen, people approach things differently. Hopefully we're not repeating the exact same dynamics. That's not what we want to do, because
It's rich.
there's a reason that previous relationship ended, so we don't want to repeat old patterns and behaviors, and we just have to
So
really
rich.
look at the dynamic. And in order to change the dynamic, you have to change some aspect of the behavior, and rather than just trying to adopt in so many new behaviors, try to adjust the behaviors in which you're
Wow.
already practicing. So it's like, take something in that same time space that you normally do one thing, and it's, say you guys watch TV for 3 hours every night,
So
and you're
good.
bored in your relationship.
So
Well,
good.
you know you watch 3 hours of boring TV every night. So take those 3 hours and do something more
different.
enjoyable.
Yeah, do something
You know,
different.
so
Change the game.
yeah,
Stop
change
the silence.
game, right?
Where there's silence,
And
there's
then stop
safety.
waiting for someone
right?
else to start the fun,
Right.
to initiate,
Right.
you know, an activity.
Right.
There's so, in women, I'm going to point the finger at women here. Women will say, but I just want him to just, like, you know, we have watched, we've read
Right.
too many books, we've seen, we've been to Disney World.
yeah,
and
too
I
many
have on my
times.
Disney shirt
They
today.
pump out
so yeah,
oxygen in Disney World,
Yeah,
make you feel better.
yeah, they do. And it's a magical place, and it's very ethereal, and all young women love to find themselves in that feeling and space, and all of the, you know, we get all of those, I would call it an Instagram type life, where it's just like everything's picture
Yes.
perfect.
Picture perfect.
And that's generally not how it goes. It's like, we as women, we have to manage our level of expectation when it comes to that also. So just not expecting absolute perfection in every way, not expecting someone to just come in and adopt and adapt to you, because both people have to be adopting and adapting.
All the time. Say that again. That's rich.
So generally when we think of adopting something, we're thinking about taking something on. But in this case,
that's easy in the beginning.
Sometimes in this adoption, we're taking on something new to replace something that we're going to let go of. So we're replacing that habit with something else. And, you know, you're just, you have to make peace with, there are just going to be things that you will want to do and act upon and behave in that just aren't going to serve your marriage, and they're not going to serve the relationship. They're not going to get the two of you where you want to be. I think everybody should be thriving, no matter where they are in marriage, to have a healthier marriage than they have. It's just like, you want to build up some sort of muscle memory. You want to feel like you're having real breakthroughs and real perspective shifts. And it is work. I find it very sad when, you know, if we're going to talk about just in general terms, celebrity news, we find out people are breaking up all the time. And from the outside looking in, just,
Yes.
we're like, how did that happen? How did that break down? They seem so great. This seems so, of course, because we're not seeing everything and everything's
Right.
but the truth is, every relationship is at risk.
Repeat that.
Every relationship is at risk. Like, look at the risk in which you're taking when you're not addressing things, when you're not changing behaviors, when you're not blank canvassing, when you're not adapting some of your own rigidity or belief systems, or bringing other things in, or not dealing with your own personal pain and hurt and trust. And just, you just really have to be someone that you would want to be with.
Be the person you want to be with.
Right. And not down to like your absolute trait, but like be at the level, like be giving the level of effort and the amount of what you would want back.
Yeah, that's being the Redeemer. Absolutely. All those qualities are so rich in you encompassing the ability to be aware, T.T. Carlin, of what you want to contribute out of what you truly desire in the marriage and relationship, to be those things and to be that blank canvas.
Yes.
And have the emotional attunement that you want and desire. And that just deals with you being able to have the self-empowerment for self-reflection, because 9 times out of 10, regardless of whether you think you're healed or you're not, thank God that we have our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ that we can keep going to, and we can bear our burdens and our traumas,
which
and
might be
our afflictions
over
at
a
the
long
cross.
period of time.
It is, in my opinion, over a long period of time. And then being able to do that level of self-awareness where you can begin to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way, and where is it coming from? Let me give you a couple examples of what it looks like when you begin to just ask yourself these personal questions about.
Yes, I recommend journaling, because I am a huge journaler. I think that it gives you a lot of perspective on yourself. It's like you're writing your own memoir all the time.
It's a timestamp. In that period, a timestamp of where you were at that time.
You want to have some place safe that you, what I call just emotionally dump your feelings. And even if you don't feel comfortable with it, I wouldn't care if someone wrote it down, tore it up, burned it, but just be willing to. You don't understand how taking that out of your mind and putting it on paper, a voice recorder or something, can really be helpful.
Therapeutic in so many ways. And I promise you, it will transform the way that you communicate and the way that you relate to your spouse and significant other, because you're taking the time to emotionally emote a feeling. Feelings are just feelings. They're not right. They're not wrong. We project our feelings in being right and wrong on our spouse and significant other out of our own traumas and out of our own insecurities. But you're not right. The only thing you're right about is
that you're causing conflict.
Exactly. That you're causing conflict.
There's a problem.
And what you're behaving in is not what you're desiring. I say this to men all the time. We want to be close to our wives and significant other. We have to do that by everything outside of the bedroom creates an amazing time in the bedroom. So you have to ask yourself constantly, men, am I being a redeemer? Why do I feel this way? Where is this coming from? Because when you begin to submit yourself, and you submit yourself to something higher than you, you can't go to the Father and him not begin to do a work in you. You can't go to the Father and think that the Father is going to work your spouse and significant other. No, the Father is going to work you, and he's going to work you over from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. He's going to work you where he'll give you a breastplate of righteousness, a crown of glory. But the Bible says he'll give you that belt of truth in working with you. And in that, I feel, and I know that it's important that you begin to ask yourself some of these questions, which we ask our couples these kinds of questions all the time about thinking of where and why and how you're feeling and where is it coming from, without blame and without shame. When you first fall in love, you're so on fire for that person because 9 times out of 10 you've prayed, or someone has prayed, or someone whom you love has prayed, and this person has entered in your life, and you know that this particular person is different. They're different for a reason. You feel differently about them. It doesn't matter. They give you hope. They give you faith. You have love. You feel inspired, and it's
You
not
feel safe
you
and
feel safe.
comfortable
And yes,
and
in a whole
accepted
nother
as yourself.
in a whole nother
Absolutely.
capacity.
Appreciated,
Totally.
actually liked
and
admired,
appreciated, and it's like, oh my God, you like that about me?
uplifted. You know,
Yes.
you feel
Encouraged and uplifted and affirmed and
Yeah, no one wants to
understood.
live with their, you know,
No,
enemy or someone who's
Absolutely.
smearing their name
Absolutely.
all around town.
absolutely.
So I don't think we have time.
Yeah, here's a
So-
couple of questions that you can just kind of just think about.
Okay.
You know, you can
Two
think
questions
about
in
two
30
questions.
seconds.
Two questions. I'll try to read maybe 5. I tend to deny what? What do you tend to deny sometimes in your marriage and relationship and within you?
Okay.
Your happiest.
Tend to deny.
I tend to deny what? Just
Okay.
begin to do the body of work.
What do I tend to deny?
Right.
What's the next one?
Okay. I am happiest when.
Okay.
I am happiest when.
Yes.
Here's another
Yes.
one. Sometimes I what? Sometimes I, whatever that is. Go
This
to the
is
park.
all in
Your own self-reflection.
Yes. Yes.
Your own self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one. What makes me angry is what?
Yes.
What makes me angry is what?
Mhm.
I wish what? I
Yes.
wish that these are relatable things that you can relate.
Very great starting
Mhm.
points.
I hate it when.
Yes, you can say I hate it when, and then you can go even further from that and say I hate it when because it makes me feel,
Mhm.
because it
No
makes
blame.
me think, because
Right.
it reminds me of.
Mhm.
I feel this is how I feel when these types of things happen. I feel shortchanged, or just like look at the root of where it actually is. So those are kind
That's
of
good.
journal prompts, and that's
All-
something we could start even posting, just like
Yeah.
questions
Absolutely.
to just ask yourself for your own level of self-awareness.
Here's one more. Here's one more,
Okay.
Nicole. When I get angry, I what? Like if you really
Yes.
want to relate to your spouse and significant
And
other,
anger is just pain turned
Turn
inside
inward.
out.
Right.
So whatever's making you angry is also what is hurting
Mhm.
you.
I would be more lovable if what?
Oh,
I would be more lovable if what?
yes.
When you ask yourself these kinds of questions, it allows you to get in touch with what you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
where you can have a conversation with yourself before you have it with your spouse and
Yes,
significant other,
absolutely.
without blame and shame. Turn that finger that you're pointing all the way back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Begin to do the work within you. If you want to transform your relationship and your marriage,
Mhm.
you want to transform it to something better and something greater. You have to begin to be aware of what you are contributing. Not only just being present, but being accountable to what you are contributing. And being a man, you're contributing exactly where the marriage and relationship is in the emotional continuity and topography, with basically how it feels, high or low, topography high or low in land, then what's going on. You guys, you've been listening to Coupling with the Carlins. We're here every single Friday between 4 to 5 p.m. You're listening to KBOB 89.9 FM, Black on Black Community Radio, live streaming 24/7. Tell them to you, KBOB 899.
If you miss it the first time, come back and stream it later.
Come back
You've
and stream
got the whole weekend.
We've got a couple things that we want to give you guys in the near future. We're going to be starting our raffles. There's a lot of individuals where you guys have won prizes,
Yes.
and you guys need to come get your prizes.
Yes.
We will be sharing all the winners of the raffle prizes that we have for you all, and also we'll be rolling out what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. We're going to give an amazing offer, and you guys getting an opportunity to work with us for 4 to 6 weeks on something that will be to work with you
and the one you love,
and the one that you love. That we're going to be doing a body of work on Sundays. So you guys can find us at carlincouplingco.com. Tell them where else they can find us, Tia.
They can find us on carlincouplingcode.com. They can find us on Facebook. If
Carlin Coupling Code.
Search Carlin Coupling Code. And of course, now I'm tongue-tied. And we post on the KBOB website and Facebook page,
Yes.
And we have our own Facebook page and Instagram, which is not updated or anything like that. But feel free to message us. We
on Facebook too.
Yes, absolutely. Because we're pretty high touch, low tech, I would say.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you can always reach us at carlincouplingcode@gmail.com. I've got a
Thank
perfect
you.
oldie but a goodie. And I know men out there who you're loving your wives and significant others, and you're loving them to know to the next level. I know you want to make the love last forever. I have for you. I love this cat.
Pat on
he's
the back
oldie.
if that's what you got going.
Yeah, make it
right?
last forever. I've got
Mhm.
Keith Sweat coming at you. Make it last forever. I love this
Have
cat.
a great weekend.
Have a great weekend,
Enjoy
everybody.
the weather.
Enjoy the weather.
Get
Have
out
a
and
great
have some
date night.
fun.
Here's Keith Sweat. Make it last forever. I love this cat. I love this cat. Let me bring this up for you guys. I appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
God bless you, everybody.
See you
Have
next week.
Have a great weekend. See you next week, guys. See you next. Here's Keith Sweat. Make it last forever.
Been all day thinking, all night wondering why love has to change. You kiss me, but it's not real. Tell me what happened. Are we living a lie, baby? Is that magic gone? Ooh, do you feel the same way you used to, girl? Ooh, tell me, is it wrong for us to love like this? How deep is your love? How deep is your love? How deep is your love? You run your fingers through my hair. You tell me you love me. You act like everything